Welcome at Pro DJ School on tour. My name is Maxime and we are here with Hugo Langras. We have invited you because we have seen some posts on Instagram. You are one of the most sampled MCs. Clearing samples, what's your part in that, in this whole story?
Well, normally when I work for an artist, I am the one who is basically in charge of the whole clearance process, as you call it. And the clearance process is nothing else than looking up who did what in the record that you want to use, or the part of the record that you want to use, and then contacting all the legal representatives of those parties. As an artist who is being sampled sometimes, I usually approve or disapprove the request that we get, or we take legal action against people who did not ask for permission to use our stuff. So as a manager, I try to help an artist get the permission to use something that somebody else created, and as an artist, you know, you can or cannot, whatever you want, approve if somebody uses your stuff, you know.
All right, and if someone has used it and has not asked for permission, what's the process about that? Because then you got to take action.
There is two ways of going about it. Quite simply, it is either you prohibit the use, which means the record has to basically come off the internet or come off the CDs or come out of the movie, which usually is a problem for the party who has, you know, started a marketing campaign for a record, etc. Or, and I hate to be blunt, but you take them to the bank, because that costs a lot of money. So you can, if somebody does not ask for permission, and basically you catch them in what I call stealing, you know, you can basically ask whatever you want from them as far as splits are concerned or fees, because, you know, basically you caught a thief and it's like, okay, I'm going to destroy your record, basically take it off the market, or we make a deal right now, you know. Let's
pretend, what if I want to make a track and I'm searching for samples on a platform, and I want to release that track, but I've used like samples from the platform. How does that work? Where do I have to
okay, the problem, it used to be with, you know, the sample CDs, or even before that, you know, you used to have you know, basically discs with like vocals and riffs and shit on it, and always it said on the sleeve, you know, this is free for sampling. But a lot of my records, for example, but also records from some of my clients, are on those packs, you know. So, and I'm sure, and that's sometimes the problem, you know, there is a reason why somebody picks a certain vocal. It's probably because he heard it before, or because he thinks it's a hit. And what annoys me sometimes, but I've had it many times before, is that sometimes if you just type, you know, the lyrics into Google, you can see who the owner is. So it doesn't matter if it's on a pack or on a platform or whatever, just do a little bit of research, you know. And what also is a problem is, you know, you can use whatever, if you have the sentence, whatever, turn up the bass, right? Legally this doesn't make any sense, by the way, but if you only use the word bass, you know, and put a lot of effects on it and change it and make it, instead of bass, go, you know, and shit like that, then probably, you know, nobody will give a shit, to be honest, right? But if I've had examples where the entire 16 bars of rap were being used without permission, you know, and in that case it becomes a little, you know, you're playing with fire. So be very careful if you use something from either a sample CD or from another, you know, if somebody else has already used let's say an old vocal from the 70s, and you're like, oh, somebody else used it, so I can do that too. That's not true. It's very simple. Every creator has the right to decide what's going to happen with his music, his lyrics, his performance, etc. And I guess everybody who's involved in making music, or basically turning an idea into a recording, will feel the same, you know. You want people to ask you for permission. It's that simple.
Exactly. Okay, and then I have another question. Where is it? About the clearing. Is this something that label does for you, or can you also do it yourself if you are not signed? Or
no, listen, it depends. Sometimes a label likes a demo so much that they will help you, and that of course is nice, you know, because then their legal people will do the work, and sometimes they have access to certain databases, you know, either for the on the publishing side or on the master side. So their network is usually better than when you're just a starting artist. But a lot of labels also are like, I'm not gonna bother, clear it yourself. So if a label or a publisher wants to help you, that's great. If you're not signed, or if you have no friends, then you have to do it yourself, which is also possible. But of course it is a little bit difficult because you have to first of all find who the original writers and composers are. You have to find who the performer is, because it's not just about the words, it's also about the rapper.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's not just the rapper, but it's also the label that used to have the rapper or the singer under contract. And what is also sometimes difficult is that even if the publisher and the label of this sample think it's a good idea, then sometimes one of the writers or the rapper or singer or the guitar player does not like the new record, then it's still no deal. So sometimes it can take a long while. There is an example of a sample I just cleared for one of my clients. Sidney Sampson made a demo with EV, and the track is going to be called Bel Air Bounce, but it contains a sample of the Fabulous Bongo Band, and in this case both the team of Eve and me and Sydney's publisher and Spinnin' Records, which they were all helping to clear it. It took us about 5 weeks to clear it, but we have the full permission now. And to give you some idea, they charge it's basically just before the drop. There's a little instrumental bit of, I'd say, maybe 10 seconds if you count it. They charge I think $1,000 up front, and they want approximately 1/3 of all the royalties and all the publishing money. So just to give you an idea, so you lose 1/3 of your money, plus you have to pay them, even if you sell 0 records, $1,000.
Exactly. And about like vocals and lyrics, can you tell me maybe a little bit more about copyright, because that's also a difference, right?
Which copyright?
Copyright between like lyrics and recordings, like.
Well, so you have to basically, the way I sometimes try to explain it to some of my artists is basically this. The publishing is concerned with those things you can read. So like, the symbols for the little notes on paper, you can do für Elise, you can do the notes on a piece of paper, so you can read those notes.
Yeah.
And you can read the lyrics. You can read Put Your Hands Up for Detroit. You can read it.
Yeah.
But there is a huge difference if I do those lyrics. We both have the same lyrics in front of us, right? But if you rap them or I rap them, that will sound different, right?
Yeah.
So, and that is the stuff you can hear, okay? So the master recording, which is basically how you put what has been written on the tape, so by singing it, by playing it, by playing the guitar or whatever, that has to do with the master recording, okay? And all the stuff you can read has to do with publishing. And then there is some other stuff like neighboring rights, which has to do with if you can hear it, etc., etc. So the main difference is this: who writes / composes the melodies and the lyrics. That's one side, and the other side is, once that has been done, I will sing it, or you will rap it, or somebody else will, and that is basically the second copyright. Especially in dance music, when music is instrumental, right? When you have an instrumental track, it can be whatever, techno, trance, it doesn't matter. But usually the funny thing is that the producer, the composer, and the performer are the same person. It's you behind the laptop. You think of the notes, but you immediately play them into your computer. So because you hit the notes and make a sound, you're an artist, you're a performer. But you're also the composer, because you thought of those notes, right? So in that case, those 3 roles, the producer, the performer, and the composer, are the same person, and they all do it on a laptop, I guess. So people who come from dance music sometimes have a little bit of difficulty understanding how the process works as soon as you go into the studio with a vocalist. They're like, yeah, but like the question you just asked, because you've never dealt with words. You know what I mean? So you basically have to learn it, especially because, let's say you're in a studio for, in your bedroom and you make a cool track, then the inevitable question is going to be, okay, who does what and who gets what and who is put on the artwork in which way, It's going to be Maxine, featuring Hugo if I do the rap, or is it going to be Maxine and Hugo, or is it going to be Hugo? Usually the most sensitive shit that you will ever get in a negotiation. People usually are like, okay, I just, the percentage of who gets what is usually an easier discussion than how you are credited, which is like how you are on the artwork, Everybody loves to show their grandma, hey, this is my record. So you want your, you want your head on the on the sleeve or your name on the record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I understand. Okay, last questions about this subject. If I take parts for, I think it's called already. If I take parts from different artists, and I make a new song out of it, like big parts, can you explain, like our watchers, the difference between a bootleg and a remix?
Well, simple. A bootleg is an unauthorized recording of a record.
Yeah.
So basically, a bootleg can be anything. Unless you have permission, because then it's not a bootleg anymore.
Okay, and then it's a remix.
A remix, yeah, but it basically means if you could basically always call it a bootleg if you didn't get permission.
Well, I run out of questions. Is there anything you would like to add to these subjects?
No, not about these subjects, no.
Alright, thank you very much for your time. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope this interview was very useful. For me it was. We are preparing a next interview more about management, so if you are interested, hoe zeg je dat?
Check the next episode.
Check the next episode. Thank you guys.